All right, starting with example 2, after today's warm-up, this is going to be a piece of cake. We'll breeze through this, watch. Given the function, blah, 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 g of x equals that, describe the transformations, identify the vertex, the local maximum. We didn't do that in the warm-up, and then graph it. Okay, so let's describe the transformations first. Number 1, remember if you have a negative a value, it does 2 things, doesn't it? It does 2 things. The negative by itself, as we saw in the warm-up, is still an x-axis reflection. And I'm just going to list them vertically here instead of a sentence. Number 2, what would the 3 do by itself if it's outside? Vertical stretch by a factor of 3. So that's what the negative 3 does. It does those 2 things. And then the minus 5 on the inside moves it right 5. Remember, the inside is horizontal, opposite of what it appears. And then the fourth and final one, plus 2 on the outside, moves it up 2. So there's your 4 transformations. All right, let's go ahead and sketch it first, and then we can answer the questions, I think, a little bit easier. Let's do the vertex. We can do that. We actually need that to graph it. The vertex is where? What ordered pair? At 5, 2. Yeah. It was at 0, 0. We moved it right 5. So 0 went to 5. And it went up 2. So now the y coordinate's 2. That's the HK format, 5, 2. Hey, before we even graph it, the line of symmetry is the vertical line x equals what? 5. It's just the x coordinate of the vertex. All right, now let's graph it. I'll sketch it in, let's see, I don't want to use red. That's the cougar's color. Gross. How about green? So we go to the point 5, comma 2. 5, comma 2 right here. And I know it opens down. Remember, let's do this. What would the slope be? If the slope would be plus or minus what number? It's just your a value. It's either your a value or your b value. We don't have a b value other than 1. So your slope is plus or minus 3. So if I know that it opens down, if you want to do that after x-axis reflection, you can say it opens down. If the slope is 3, all I got to do to get a point is go down 3, left 1, and that gives me 1 point. I can then connect those dots with a straight line. And then to get the next point, I'll go down 3, right 1. We'll need 1 on either side because it does continue. I'll continue it past the graph. So there's what the graph looks like. The slope is just your coefficient of x, whether it comes from an a value, absolute value, or a b value's absolute value. The slope is plus or minus 3. I'll label it. The slope coming in, of course, is positive 3 because it's increasing, and the slope going out is negative 3 because it's decreasing. All right, now that we have that, let's answer the next question. We have a maximum or a minimum? A local max or a local min right here? It's a local max, so we'll circle maximum of, oops, I guess we're not supposed to circle it, we're supposed to write it. We have a max, you can abbreviate it max, that's fine, of, and again, I want you to put y equals, what's the y value there? 2, and it occurs at 5. We're thinking. That's the purpose of this. When are you ever going to have to sketch transformations of absolute value functions ever again outside of this class? Besides maybe in pre-cal and calculus if you take it, or college algebra? Never. But if you're thinking through this, you're developing those neural circuits that you can use the rest of your life, right? It makes sense. We're thinking abstractly. That's the purpose of this class. All right. I think we're done with that. Any questions on that one? Line of symmetry. If you want to draw the line of symmetry, you could draw it as a dotted line coming in right through here. It's the vertical line. AOS, that's what I usually abbreviate it, axis of symmetry. AOS, the axis of symmetry. All right, let's do the next one. Letter B, standard transformation form. What would be the first thing that we do if there's no negative out front, no number out front other than 1? We got a 1/2 on the inside. That is going to be your horizontal what? Stretch. Good. By a factor of? Flip it. 2. Yeah, there we go. And then underneath there, number 2, the plus 3 moves it left 3, opposite of what you might think. Well, now you think it's left 3, so it's actually correct now in your brain. Number 3, the minus 1 is down 1. Where does that put our vertex if it was at 0, 0? We went left 3, down 1. Negative 3, negative 1. Seguro. and since we have the vertex, the line of symmetry comes almost for free. It's -3. We just got to remember to put a what letter in front of it? X, because that's the vertical line. The x coordinate is -3, x is -3. All right, let's go ahead and sketch it before we answer the next question. So we go to -3, -1, which is right here. And what's the slope going to be? If I highlighted the 1/2, that means the slope is going to be plus or minus 1/2. It's going to be one of each. Now, this one didn't flip across the x-axis, did it? So it still opens what? Let me make that note to ourselves. It opens up. So if the slope is 1/2, I'm going to go up 1, right 2, and that's going to give me enough to draw that part, and then I'm going to go up 1 and left 2, and that gives me another point that I can connect for that one. And there it is. So you can tell that we horizontally stretched it by a factor of 2. If you accidentally had said horizontal compression by a factor of 2, accidentally said compression, but you sketched it using the slope of 1/2, you can see for yourself here that you're like, oop, the green graph is actually a lot wider than the blue graph. See that? The blue graph is your parent function. So when you compare them, the green graph is wider. Must have stretched it horizontally. Kind of fun, huh? Kind of fun. Like if you were a Dallas Cowboy last night. Kind of fun. Not if you were a New York Giant. Or unfortunately a unicorn on Friday night. That was sad too. All right, domain and range. Hey, y'all have heard those terms before, right? Domain is the collection of x values. Range is a collection of y values. The parent function has a domain of all real numbers. And we mentioned that's one way to write it. And the range has the range of this. And instead of f of x, we use y, the set of all y such that y is greater than or equal to 0. You could do that. We want to identify the domain and range of this function here. Well, we're going to do this lickety-split. I'm going to show you how to do this. Let's identify the vertex first, because it's in standard transformation form. Where's the vertex for this new transformed absolute value graph? -5, +2. Very good. You take the opposite sign on the x, and you take the actual sign on the y, on the outside part. -5, 2. And then you just ask yourself, does it open up or down? It opens down. That's what the negative out front means. It opens down. So if we're just interested in the sketch for the domain and range, that's all we really need. We'll come out here, we'll call that -5, we'll call this 2, we'll put our little vertex, and of course the slope is plus or minus 1. That's what the slope is, plus or minus 1. But you really don't even need to be accurate with the slope because we don't have any grid marks. All we need to know is that it opens down. So we'll just draw it going down. Try to make it symmetrical on both sides. Like if you go down with a certain steepness on one side, make it go down with the same steepness on the other. If we're just interested in the domain and range, this is all we need. What would the domain be from left to right? What values of x have graph values? All of them, right? Yeah. This goes this is always the greatest. 3, very good. We'll see. 6, 3, put a dot. There's no negative. Draw, try to draw. See the last one with your scissors here. We're going 40 to the left. G. Do it. I'm moving it. On the inside or the outside? Does it matter? You can also hit alpha window. Now we get generally around and never goes past 3 decibels in there. I just can't put it on dry test. Takes care of 3.1 absolute value functions. Any questions on that? yes, your credit can go water. I think that's my side. It doesn't afford me to water. Water is a maximum.